I would like to introduce our guest speaker today and also do a land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that this webinar is being brought to you from our offices located on Treaty 1 lands, the original territories of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Lakota, Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Please keep your questions to the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, not the chat box. And at the end of the seminar, your questions will be answered. We'll have a bit of a forum where we can have your questions answered by our guest speaker. The video is being recorded, and there will be a feedback survey pop up on your screen once you leave the webinar. We encourage everybody to please show us, what we're doing right and how we can improve things going forward, so we can make sure we're offering subjects like this of value to you. Our speaker today is Camila Elguiari. Camila Elguiara. I knew I was going to screw that up. She's a volunteer. She's with Volunteer Manitoba. She is the training and development manager. Her role is as the head of the training department is to provide the not-for-profit sector with timely and relevant professional development in board governance, volunteer management, and capacity building for organizations. She also oversees the Board Connect program at Volunteer Manitoba, which matches interested individuals with opportunities to serve on a local board of directors. She also volunteers her time with Sawa Theatre, a local theatre group for newcomer youth, the Polish Language and Cultural Endowment Committee, the Anti-Racism and Sports Working Committee, and sits on the steering committee for the annual conference hosted by Recreation Manitoba. So a very busy lady, and we're very happy to have her here today. So with that, Camila, I will pass it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rick, for that lovely introduction. It's always nice, when you get that introduction and someone's reading your bio. That's very sweet. So thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully you guys can all see it. I tried to make the webinar experience as interactive as possible. So if you have any comments or questions, please, like Rick said, use the question and answer button that you can find on your Zoom bar with all the options. So I'm Camila Elguiara with Volunteer Manitoba, and today we're going to talk about why join a volunteer board. When Supply Chain Management Canada Manitoba branch approached me, I said, yeah, we can for sure do a presentation on this, because many people don't know what the reasons are to joining a board. Many people don't even know what a board of directors are. So I'm really hoping that today's presentation, we can go over actually, I've got my agenda right here. We'll go over the role of what a nonprofit board is, why you should consider joining one, and like many of our promo material mentioned, think of career development, how we can elevate your career through joining a board, and then the best ways to apply for a seat. So we'll go over how do you apply to be a part of a board. Rick went over a description or an introduction of who I am. I've been with Volunteer Manitoba for about 4 years, and throughout my entire career, I've worked in nonprofit and volunteered in the nonprofit charity sector. So I'm very familiar with many organizations and the work that they do here in the province. So for those of you that don't know about Volunteer Manitoba, we are the volunteer center of the province. So we have 6 different programs that we run and offer. One of which is Board Connect, where we match, it's like a matchmaking service, and I'll go over it at the end of the presentation, but it's a matchmaking service for those looking to sit on a board and nonprofits that are recruiting board members. We have our community outreach and referral services. So those are anyone in Manitoba that's looking for somewhere to volunteer. We can help them find somewhere to volunteer. That we also help the flip side of that, where we help nonprofits recruit volunteers. We have our annual volunteer awards, where we recognize the top volunteers here in Manitoba. We have training for groups and for individuals. That's the department that I look after, where we provide training to the nonprofit sector, specifically in board governance, volunteer management, and general capacity building for those who work in nonprofit. And then we have our VM Youth program that really encourages youth ages 13 to 29 to volunteer. So if you have any youth at home that don't know what they're going to do over the summer and want some experience, you can refer them to our youth program and we can help them find somewhere to volunteer. What is a board of directors? I'm going to be honest. For the longest time, even when I worked at Volunteer Manitoba, I had no idea what a board of directors were. I knew that they were people that sat at a table and they talked about stuff. I didn't really exactly know what their role was or how does that work? Like, how are they involved in the nonprofit structure? So what is a nonprofit board? Well, it's a group of people, volunteers, that are legally responsible for the governance of an organization. And we'll go over those 5 different pillars on what that exactly means. So governance, they first are legally responsible for the governance of an organization. So they need to be up to date with their bylaws, policies, making sure that the organization has those in place and making sure the organization is following them. They're also part of the decision-making of an organization. So any kind of big decision that a nonprofit or a charity needs to make would go through the board of directors because they have the best interest of the organization. They don't work for the organization, they're volunteering their time, but they're there to serve the organization the best that they can. They're also responsible for the strategic planning and leadership of an organization. So they're looking at the long-term plan of the organization. What initiatives do they want to take over or take on? Can they make sure that they can fulfill their mission and their vision through their strategic planning and providing guidance to the staff on what direction that the organization should go into. Finances, so they're responsible of looking through the finances of an organization. Many times nonprofits run like a business, so the board would be looking over the business model. How is everything working? Does it make sure that you're able to break even, that you're able to pay your staff and do the programming that you do? There's also a responsibility of fundraising, making sure that the board has some fundraising or the organization has fundraising strategies in place for the organization to continue on and flourish. You also act as an ambassador for the organization. So many times the board would be called upon to speak on behalf of the organization for maybe a big event or something exciting happening at the organization. You're also cultivating relationships as a board member to figure out different kind of partnerships that can happen or leading to fund development or fundraising. You're also there to listen to the community's needs. You're a volunteer, you're there to support the organization. And like I said, think about the organization in the best interest, or you're making decisions for the best interest of the organization. So oftentimes you're listening to community members that nonprofit or charity is working with. You're also going to be sharing the impact. So you're going to be ambassador in the community or in Manitoba for that organization. So you're going to be sharing what that organization does. And lastly, you're there to support the executive director. So all the staff and volunteers, their leader is the executive director, but the executive director also needs some guidance and some leadership. And so you're there to support the executive director by supervising and evaluating the executive director. And also part of the recruitment of the executive director would happen on the board. The board would be responsible for finding a new executive director for that organization. If you do want to learn more about board governance, like I mentioned earlier, I just gave you a quick rundown of what a board of directors is. But if you do want to understand board governance fully, we do have workshops on board governance at Volunteer Manitoba, where you can learn the roles and responsibilities of a nonprofit board. I spoke about the financial responsibilities of a nonprofit board. We have a workshop on that. We also have a workshop on strategic planning for boards, succession planning for boards. So that talks about finding new executive directors, finding new board members. We also have webinars on board policies and bylaws. So if this is your first interaction of what exactly is a board, or you want to freshen up your skill set in board governance, we offer those workshops, some for free, some do have a cost, but normally it's a very reasonable cost for you to take on. So now that you understand what a board is, and what their role is. I'm going to flip it over now to what it means to be a volunteer and how that plays into becoming a board member. So volunteerism. So volunteer involvement, such as being a board member, has a powerful impact on our communities, on organizations and individuals. And it's fundamental to creating a healthy and democratic society. And it unites us all as we work towards a common goal. At Volunteer Manitoba, we recognize that volunteers are the backbones of many nonprofits and charities. And to this day, I know that nonprofits and charities in Manitoba would not exist if we didn't have volunteers serving as board members or working on the front lines, that volunteers are really the backbone of these organizations. Volunteerism really creates an opportunity for organizations and communities to accomplish their goals. And that gives those same volunteers an opportunity to grow and give back to their community in meaningful ways. So what does this all translate to numbers? Well, in Canada, in 2018, they realized that 12.7 million Canadians were donating their time and donating close to 1.7 billion hours. So if you think about that in terms of employment, that's 863,000 full-time jobs in a year. So volunteerism has a huge impact here in Canada. And in Manitoba, we have the second highest rate of volunteerism in Canada. The first is Saskatchewan, and my old manager and I used to joke that one day we will beat them, that we will be number one. So why join a board? We realize that the backbone of nonprofits and charities are the volunteers, but you know, what's in it for me? And why would we want to join a board? So the first reason, or the first benefits that I'm going to review are the benefits to the community, and then I'm going to go over the benefits to ourselves. So the benefits to the community. I love this photo. If you're just listening in and you're working on some other stuff, take a moment and look at this photo, because I use it in my personal life all the time. Before you've complained, have you volunteered yet? I say the number one reason or number one benefit volunteerism is that we're addressing community issues or needs. So before you've complained about something, is there something that I can do about it? And I guarantee you there's a nonprofit or charity that's addressing that issue that you're talking about. Even something as trivial, and I use this example in my high school presentations. I normally ask the class, how many people think Winnipeg is boring or there's nothing to do in Winnipeg? And normally you get half the class who has heard that expression or has said that expression themselves. So before you start complaining that your community is really boring, have you volunteered to address it? And I guarantee you, you've heard of probably lots of different festivals that have happened here in Winnipeg, arts organizations, theaters, museums, that all make Winnipeg a more exciting place to be. And so if you've complained about something, I guarantee you there's some way that you can address that issue that's happening in your city. And it can be more serious issues, like, for example, homelessness, environmental activism. There's a nonprofit that's addressing any kind of issue that you can think of here in Manitoba, and we can help you find those organizations. You can improve the lives of others when you're volunteering or being on a board. You're helping an organization fulfill its mission and vision. So you're helping other people by being on a board, not directly, but indirectly by the organization fulfilling their mandate. Volunteering on a board allows individuals to share their experience and perspectives with each other, which creates a more holistic community. And like I mentioned before, you're fulfilling the mandate of nonprofits and charities. So, you know, the benefits to the community, there's such a ripple effect when we're all working together. So now let's think of the benefits to ourselves. And, you know, I specifically was thinking more so in terms of career development. How does sitting on a board help with advancing my career? Well, the first reason, or the first benefit, oh, and of course I didn't do, there we go. The first benefit is professional development. Oftentimes in our jobs, we need to gain more skills to be able to move to another level of another promotion in our organization, or if we want to find new work somewhere else, we need to gain more skills to be able to build up our career. And oftentimes in your job right now, you might be doing the same tasks day in and day out, and you might not be learning any new skill sets. So being a part of a board, you might be responsible to all of a sudden hire someone. In your job right now, you don't have to hire anyone. But at the board level, if you're going to be hiring a new executive director, you're going to learn all about HR practices when hiring someone, how to interview someone, what to look for in resumes. And so when you are on a board, you're going to gain all those skills that then can translate to putting it on your resume, showcasing it to your boss right away and saying, hey, I now learned this new skill set. I can potentially be a manager at my organization now because I've learned these different skills that can help me better be prepared to be a manager. There's also expanding your network. Oftentimes we work within silos within the companies or organizations that we work with. And so when we join a board, you're sitting next to other professionals in different industries. So you're able to mingle and interact with others that are professionals that, you know, might be able to offer you work one day, because sometimes it's not about a resume, but it's about who we know in terms of being able to find work. Or more so towards your personal growth in finding other people to expand your knowledge or understanding of our community or different systems that exist here in Manitoba, or different networks that exist here in Manitoba. The next benefit to you, and specifically in career development, is that when you get to sit on a board, you normally are supporting an initiative that really resonates with you. Oftentimes, our jobs might not be fulfilling in the ways that we are hoping they would be fulfilling in terms of making an impact in our society. And so, you know, being able to focus on your career, knowing that you are making a difference in other ways by sitting on a board, can really help you feel inspired to keep on going within your career development. My fourth reason or fourth benefit to joining a board and why you would want to join one, it gives you some career clarity. So oftentimes when you are working on a board, you're going to be working with a variety of different professionals. So let's say you come from a business background. Well, you're going to be sitting with someone that might be an accounting background, or that has a nursing background or an HR background. So you're able to figure out how do they problem solve? What do they do in their careers? And it can provide you some clarity on, no, I'm on the right track. I really do enjoy being in the field of business. Or it might kind of expand your horizons and say, you know, I might want to dabble into HR work so that I have a better understanding of it. So volunteering on a board can give you some career clarity on what exactly you want to go and where you want to go in the future, or what you're doing right now is actually where you want to be. Also, nonprofits oftentimes lean on professionals at the board level to provide guidance. And so oftentimes we get the confidence when you are the subject matter expert at the board, you're able to provide your experiences, and it kind of sets, you know, what you know in stone, saying, you know, I've got lots of years of experience, or I have, you know, a couple years of experience, but at the table, I'm the expert. It gives you kind of that career confidence. That actually leads to my next one, is intellectually stimulating. So oftentimes we're looking for more opportunities to learn and grow, and being on a board really gets us thinking that way. We have to think strategically. We have to work with other people to problem solve. We have to make big decisions on behalf of an organization, and volunteering on a board is a really great way to do, where you are having to do all those things, and maybe at your job you might not be doing all those kind of goal setting or strategic planning, and so a board opportunity gives you that that chance to use that skill set. On a personal note, something that I've found that really benefited on sitting on lots of committees and boards that benefited me in my career development is I got a better understanding of how other organizations do things, which got me better at my job. So an example is I sat on a committee where we were learning on how to recruit volunteers. And at the board level, I learned how this organization was recruiting volunteers. And so that helped me then say, oh, this is what this organization does. I also heard from other board members on how they recruited volunteers at their organization, which then when I came back to my day job and what I do for a living, I then could say, oh, you know what, these 3 organizations do it this way. This is how we're doing it at the board level for the organization I volunteer for. Now I can bring that into my work. And so that might be a very specific example for the nonprofit sector. But I think, you know, if you are in the field of supply chain management and you're sitting with other people that are doing work somewhat related to the work that you're doing, you can then see how that might relate to your job and how you can do your job better, or knowing that you are doing the best, or you know, what other people are doing is the standard, and so you can kind of pat yourself on the back saying, you know, we're at the standard that everyone else is at. So now you understand why you would want to join a board. I wanted to highlight some important questions to ask before joining a board. So I'm assuming most of you here are really looking forward to joining a board. And so you now understand what your role is, you understand the benefits to why you should join a board. And so now these are important questions to ask before you join a board so that you're joining the best board there is for you. You want to think about yourself. The work that this board is doing or this organization is doing, make your eyes light up. Does it speak to what you want to do? What is the time requirement that is going to be necessary for this board? Some boards, it's 1 hour, 1 month, every month. It's just a meeting every month that you need to be a part of, that you are going to be providing your expertise at that meeting. There is some boards where it's expected 4 hours of work a month, so that you need to prepare for those meetings, or maybe there's some initiatives that you're going to be working on. Each board is a little bit different, but I would recommend, you know, asking that organization, how many hours a month is required of me if I'm going to be a board member? On average, what we see at Volunteer Manitoba is about 3 hours to 5 hours a month that's going to be required of you. What specific input does the board want from you? Are they looking for a specific skill set? Are they looking for maybe someone with accounting or someone with a business background? So you want to see, does that skill set, do I have it? Can I provide that expert advice on the board? You want to think about, what is the board? You know, who else is at the boardroom? If you are really looking to expand your network, are they the network that you want to be a part of? Will you be giving an effective introduction to your board role? Some boards have a really robust onboarding process, especially if this is your first board. I really recommend going to somewhere where it is a little bit more established. Has the board articulated the values that should drive the culture and behaviors at all levels of the organization? So when you are looking at their values at the organization level, does it align with yours? So you want to look at the organization. Is it clear? Is it clearly shown what the vision of the future of that organization is? Do they have an effective strategy to achieve that vision? Is there clarity about the risk that the board is willing to take? There's some boards that are a little bit more risky, so they have big ambitions. They're looking for big funders, or they've got a big capital campaign coming up where they're going to be, you know, building a new space for their nonprofit. So those boards, there's a lot more risk at play. And then there's some other boards that are status quo. We're just getting through what we need to get through. So you want to look at that and see where you're at in your career and what you would be looking for. Is there a clean scheme of delegation? Does everyone know what their role is at the organization and at the board level? And how clear is the information about the health of the organization? So you want to look at their finances. What are their relationships with other stakeholders? What does the community say about them? And what information does this tell you to make sure that it is a good fit for you? So where to find these nonprofit boards? So We spoke about what exactly is a board, the benefits to you, what important questions you should ask, and now you want to figure out where to find them. So you can look online at different causes, different charities that you're already familiar with. You can look to your professional association. So for those of you that are a part or know of Manitoba, the Supply Chain Management, or Supply Chain Canada, sorry. The Supply Chain Canada is an association. They might have positions that you can join at their board. So you can look at your own professional association and see if there's positions for you to join at a committee level or at the board level. You can look on Volunteer Manitoba's opportunity page. So we've got positions listed on our website from a variety of different organizations. It's like an Indeed, but with just volunteer roles. So there's just general volunteer opportunities. But if you search in the keywords board of directors, you'll get a whole list of different organizations that are currently recruiting. And then the last place that you can find a board opportunity is through our Board Connect program, which, like I was mentioning earlier, it's like a matchmaking service. So if you're interested in joining a board, you can sign up through our website, volunteermanitoba.ca. You would have to take a 2-hour board governance workshop to make sure that you really understand what your role is. We then match you with a board based on what kind of experience you're looking for, what kind of organizations or issues you wish to address through a nonprofit. And so we would match you with that organization. And I know Supply Chain Canada was a part of Board Connect, and I think they still are. So that's also another way to get connected with them. And with that, are there any questions? I realize that it is 12:30, so we went a little bit faster than I thought I was going to go through the material, but are there any questions on the material that I went over? Or is anyone already on a board that they want to share their experience? It's always nice to hear from other colleagues or other community members and what they're doing.
I'm not seeing any questions yet, but we will give everybody a moment just to go there. Maybe just while we're waiting for that, maybe just speak a little bit more about that, the volunteer, like you touched on it, like, you know, what, if somebody's trying to get on for the first time, like you mentioned, hey, like what kind of role in your experience, but do you have any suggestions for somebody that's maybe joining a board for the first time?
Yeah, no,
maybe the type of volunteer activity or some suggestions on how they can make it a successful and a positive experience for themselves.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I slowly mentioned committees as well as board positions. So if this is your first time thinking about joining a board and you have never been on a board of directors before, oftentimes, especially through our Board Connect program, we recommend those individuals join a committee. So oftentimes boards will have committees where they'll have committee members and not just board members on those committees. And so that is a really good opportunity for you. You're not legally responsible for the organization at that point. You're not, you know, a board of directors yet, but you're on the committee that you can learn a little bit about the organization. You can see how the different board members interact with each other, what kind of decisions that they're making at the board level. And normally at a committee level, you are providing input. Sometimes it's a working committee, so you would be doing the work itself. You're not just providing advice and guidance or, you know, providing the decision making, but you're actually doing the work. And so what we recommend is try to find a committee that you can sit on it for 1 year, see what it's like. And then once that organization is looking for board members, you can put your application in if your experience was really positive.
Well, thank you. And kind of follow up to that is, what are some of the common mistakes maybe new board members make that you can kind of highlight to help them avoid, you know, some common pitfalls that new board members kind of run into?
Yeah, no, that's a good question too. Oftentimes people aren't really sure what their responsibilities are. And so people come or sign up to be a part of a board, or sometimes they don't actually sign up, but someone taps them on the shoulder and says, you know what, you should really join this board. It's been a really good experience for me, you should join. And so that means they haven't really done their due diligence in learning about it, learning about the organization, learning about what exactly board governance is. Sometimes people think that they're there to, provide their opinion, even though maybe it wasn't asked, or make decisions, by themselves because they feel like they're a board member. It's a democratic process. So there's voting that needs to happen. They need to listen to their teammates. So really understanding what your role is as a board member, realizing that, sometimes you're going to be asked to provide your opinion on things. Sometimes you're not going to be asked. It might be another person that has a better skill set might be asked for their opinion. And that know that the decision making is a democratic process. So even if the decision, even if the vote didn't go the way that you wanted it to, you still have to act as an ambassador towards the organization. You're still there, being a part of the organization. Just know that this might not be the outcome that you wanted, but you're a part of a team. So you have to kind of be aware of that. And like I said, know about the organization. Some people just join blindly. They don't realize what exactly organization they've joined, or what their financial statements are, what kind of programming that organization does. So really doing that research beforehand is really crucial to making sure that you'll have a successful time at that organization.
Still no questions yet, but I do have another one for you.
Yeah.
What about longevity? Again, you can be on a board as long as you keep being appointed and you can be there, but is there a point, is there a good amount of time you should be on there? Kind of longevity, you stay with an organization, is it good to move around to different ones? Like, what's some guidance there in terms of, like, should I do a term? Should I do 2 terms? Should I be on until I die? Like, what's kind of a good, what's a, kind of some guidance there in terms of your effectiveness, of being a board member?
No, that's a good question. Some people feel like once they join a board that they're going to have to be there until they're in the grave, and that's not at all the case. It's actually healthy for boards to go through natural rotation of different people, new ideas. So I do believe it is dependent on the organization. Like, some organizations have actual policies and bylaws that say you can only be on the board for 2 years or 3 years. But what we tend to see is 2 years to 3 years is, a good amount of time to be on the board. Depending on their terms of agreement, like how, their terms, sometimes it can be 5 years that you can be on a board. But, I think 2 to 3 is a good amount. It doesn't have to be like a forever place that you have to volunteer at. But know that you do want to give around 2 to 3 years so you can really see the change that you're making at the organization.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I'll just kind of go out to everybody. So, if you have a question, we don't have anything there. If you have a question, please throw it in the chat or raise your hand, or if you want to go from there, but I'm not seeing anything. We'll give them maybe another 10 seconds. In the meantime, I will thank you, Camila. It was an excellent presentation, and thank you for answering my questions there at the end.
No problem.
But it looks like we don't have anything here, so it looks like we might be done for the day. So thank you for joining us, and for everyone, it is recorded. Oh, here we go. We do have a question showed up in chat here.
Yeah.
So I do, from Dolly. She mentions, any suggestions on how to attract members?
That's a really good question. So that was oftentimes a role that I had to play at Volunteer Manitoba, where we needed to get individuals excited about joining a board or volunteering. And suggestions on how to attract members is to give people the reasons why they should join. like I was mentioning, those benefits to them in the community. So you can let people know, oftentimes people, when they volunteer, they want to know that they're making a difference. So depending on what organization you're at, you can share with those members, or you can share with your community members or with the general public why joining would make a difference in their community. So showing the impact that your organization can do, and also promoting it in many different places, showcasing the benefits to different communities. You can attract different members to your organization.
Going back, and you mentioned earlier in your presentation, I think this is probably where the use of committees can be really handy, so that people don't have to make a full commitment. They can be involved in a smaller aspect to try to get to see whether they're, they believe in the mission of the organization, they understand the personalities involved, all the different things. So that's probably, having a, just from what you said earlier, it sounds like having, some good committees of the organization to bring people in at an extent where they can kind of get their feet wet, is probably a really good recruiting ground to bring directors up when you need them. Is that true?
Exactly. Actually, that's a really good point. That's part, we offer a workshop on succession planning, and oftentimes they say that in succession planning, and succession planning is really that, making sure that you're never out so many board members, that there's constant flow of new board members coming and old board members leaving. And so committees are a really great way to introduce people to the organization and get them thinking about joining a board. And so maybe it's not saying join the board right now, but it's saying join this committee. There's some really great work that we're doing. And this is the work that you'd be doing. This is the impact that it makes. And once you have those people join at the committee level, that's when you can tap people on the shoulder or let them know that they can apply to be a part of the board. Something else that we talk about in volunteer recruitment is oftentimes people don't know that they're needed, that sometimes you do have to just ask someone and say, hey, there's a really amazing position opening up. This is what we do. You'll get to try out this skill set, expand your network in this realm. Do you want to join us? And so sometimes it is about tapping that person on the shoulder. That's really good. And just asking different communities, like, when we are doing board recruitment for organizations, we recommend that they reach out to maybe communities that they haven't thought of, like talking to the newcomer population. So going to organizations that work with newcomers and asking them, hey, can you share this ad, this ad about us looking for board members? Or if you're looking for CPA to join your board, go to the CPA, Manitoba CPAs Association, and they'll be able to post it on their board, saying, we're looking for new board of directors. This is why you should join, and you'll get some applications that way. So that's another way that you can attract new board members.
Excellent, thank you. Hope that answered Dolly's question. I don't see any other ones. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you for everybody for attending today. I hope you found some value in that.
Yeah.
And we will certainly look forward to trying to provide more kind of content like this going forward. There's, as you can see on the screen, there's the link. If you'd like more information from Volunteer Manitoba. The address is incorrect now. We just learned that today.
I know. I just realized we've moved locations. We're now downtown as opposed to closer to Osborne. So we're now actually at 428 Portage. But always, our website is always open. You can find my email address, so you can always reach out to me if you have any other questions. I hope all of you learned something new and are maybe better equipped to join a board now. And thank you very much, Supply Chain Canada, for having me here today.